I never thought I'd be writing this, but here we are. This happened about 6 months ago, and I'm finally ready to share because honestly, I need to get it off my chest and maybe help someone else who might be going through something similar. So, quick background. I, 28F, was engaged to my fiancé, Mark, 31M, for about a year and a half. We'd been together for 3 years total. The wedding was planned for early fall. Everything was booked, dress alterations done, the works. My maid of honor was my childhood best friend, Sarah, 29F. We'd been inseparable since we were 7 years old. She was supposed to be my person, you know? The one who'd have my back no matter what. God, I was so naive. The perfect setup, or so I thought. 3 weeks before the wedding, I was on cloud 9. I kept posting on social media about how blessed I felt to have such amazing people in my life. Mark seemed like the perfect guy, stable job, wanted kids, got along with my family. Sarah was planning the most beautiful bachelorette party and had been so helpful with wedding planning. I literally told everyone how lucky I was to have a fiancé and best friend who got along so well.
Yeah, about that.
When things started getting weird. Looking back, there were red flags everywhere, but I was so caught up in wedding planning that I missed them completely. It started maybe 2 months before the wedding. Mark and Sarah suddenly became the wedding planning dream team. They were constantly texting about vendor stuff and meeting up to handle details I didn't need to worry about. At first, I thought it was sweet, my 2 favorite people taking care of me during a stressful time. Then I started noticing little things. They had inside jokes I wasn't part of. When the 3 of us were together, there'd be these weird moments where they'd share looks or laugh about something I didn't understand. When I asked what was funny, they'd brush it off as, "You had to be there," or just wedding stress making us silly. Mark became super protective of his phone around this time too. He'd flip it face down when I came into the room or take it with him to the bathroom. When I asked about it, he said work had been crazy and he was getting emails at all hours. Seemed reasonable enough. Sarah started acting strange too. She'd been dating this guy, Tom, for about 6 months, but suddenly she never wanted to talk about him. When I'd ask about bringing him to wedding events, she'd get vague and change the subject. She also started canceling our girls' nights last minute, always claiming she was running wedding errands or had something come up. The suspicion starts building. The first real alarm bell was about a month before the wedding. I woke up around 2 a.m. to use the bathroom and heard Mark on the phone in the living room. He was speaking in this low, intimate voice I'd never heard him use before. When I asked who he was talking to, he quickly ended the call and said it was a vendor having an emergency with our flowers. At 2 a.m. on a Tuesday.
Right.
But I wanted to believe him so badly that I convinced myself maybe it was a vendor in a different time zone or something equally ridiculous. The second red flag was when my other bridesmaid, Jenny, casually mentioned seeing Sarah and Mark together at this little cafe across town. She said they looked deep in conversation, and she'd waved but they hadn't seen her. When I asked Sarah about it later, she said they'd been discussing bachelor/bachelorette party coordination and seemed annoyed that I'd even brought it up. By this point, my gut was screaming that something was wrong, but my brain kept making excuses. They were planning my wedding. Of course they were meeting up. Of course they were getting close. I was being paranoid and crazy, right?
Wrong.
So fucking wrong. The world comes crashing down. 2 weeks before the wedding, I got my answer in the worst possible way. Mark had left his phone on the kitchen counter while he showered. It lit up with a text notification, and I could see it was from Sarah. The preview showed, "Last night was incredible. I can't stop thinking about." My hands were shaking as I picked up the phone. I know it was wrong to look, but at that point, I had to know. What I found destroyed me. Months of text messages. Flirty messages that escalated into full-blown sexting. Photos I never want to think about again. Messages about how they couldn't wait until after the wedding and how they felt so guilty but couldn't stop. Plans to meet up at hotels. Sarah telling Mark she loved him and him saying it back. The most gut-wrenching message was from just 3 days earlier. Sarah writing, I feel so bad watching her plan this wedding when she has no idea what's happening. But I can't give you up. After Saturday, we'll figure out how to tell her. Saturday. My bachelorette party. They've been planning to figure out their affair timeline at my own bachelorette party. I screenshotted everything with shaking hands before Mark got out of the shower. When he came back to the kitchen, I was sitting there with his phone in my hands and tears streaming down my face. Mark tried to deny it at first. It's not what it looks like. You're misunderstanding. The usual cheater bullshit. When I showed him that I'd seen everything, he broke down and admitted it, but tried to minimize it. It just happened, he said. It didn't mean anything. It was just the stress of the wedding bringing us together. I love you, not her. We can work through this. When I asked how long it had been going on, he finally admitted it had been 3 months. 3 months of lying to my face while I planned our future together. The conversation with Sarah was somehow even worse. She came over that evening. Mark had texted her that I knew, and I'll never forget the look on her face when she walked in. Not remorse. Not guilt. Panic that she'd been caught. She tried the same denial game at first, then switched tactics and tried to make it seem like she'd been protecting me. I didn't want to hurt you, she said. I tried to fight it, but we just connected. I never meant for this to happen. Then she said the thing that made me completely lose it. Maybe this is a sign. Maybe you two aren't meant to be together. Maybe he and I are. My best friend since childhood. The girl who'd held my hair back when I was sick, who'd helped me through every breakup, who I'd shared every secret with. She was sitting in my living room telling me that stealing my fiancé was somehow destiny. Both of them begged me not to call off the wedding. Mark said it was too late to back out and we'd lose too much money. Sarah said people would never understand, and I'd regret this decision forever. I told them both to get the fuck out of my house. The hardest decision of my life. I didn't sleep that entire night. I sat on my couch staring at my wedding dress hanging in the closet, thinking about all the plans, all the money, all the people who'd bought plane tickets and taken time off work. But then I thought about walking down that aisle to a man who'd been cheating on me for months. I thought about having Sarah standing beside me as my maid of honor while knowing she'd been sleeping with my fiancé. I thought about starting a marriage built on lies and betrayal. The next morning, I started making calls. First, I called my mom and told her everything. She was devastated but immediately supportive. Sweetheart, she said, better to find out now than after you're legally tied to him. Then I called the venue, the caterer, the photographer. I was honest about why I was canceling. My fiancé had cheated with my maid of honor. Some vendors were understanding and waived cancellation fees. Others weren't. I lost about $15,000 total, but honestly, that felt like a bargain to avoid a lifetime of misery. The fallout. Oh boy, the fallout was intense. Some family members tried to pressure me to reconsider. My aunt said I was throwing away a good man over a mistake. My future mother-in-law called me crying, begging me to give Mark another chance and not ruin his life over a moment of weakness. A moment of weakness. 3 months of betrayal with my best friend was a moment of weakness. I shut that down real quick. I sent the screenshots to both families so everyone could see exactly what kind of mistake we were talking about. The messages spoke for themselves. Mark tried to win me back for about a month after. He sent flowers, showed up at my work, wrote long emails about how sorry he was and how he'd changed. I blocked him everywhere and told him through my brother that if he didn't leave me alone, I'd get a restraining order. Sarah tried a different approach. She oscillated between begging for forgiveness and trying to justify what she'd done. She said she'd fallen in love and couldn't help herself. She claimed I'd changed since getting engaged and she'd been there for Mark when I was too busy with wedding planning. The manipulation was incredible. Even in her apology, she was trying to make it my fault. I blocked her everywhere too and told our mutual friends exactly what had happened. Some people took sides and I lost a few friendships over it, but honestly, anyone who thought I should forgive someone for betraying me that deeply wasn't really my friend anyway. It's been 6 months now, and I can honestly say calling off that wedding was the best decision I've ever made. The first few months were rough. I grieved not just the loss of my fiancé, but the loss of my best friend and the future I'd planned. I went to therapy, leaned on my real friends and family, and slowly started rebuilding my sense of trust, both in others and in myself. I found out through mutual friends that Mark and Sarah tried to make a go of it after everything imploded. Apparently, it lasted about 2 months before they broke up. Turns out their great love wasn't so great when it wasn't forbidden and exciting. Who could have seen that coming? Mark reached out a few months ago through a mutual friend, asking if we could talk. He apparently wanted to make amends and get closure. I declined. I have all the closure I need. I'm dating someone new now, someone I met through a hobby group who doesn't know Mark or Sarah or anything about my past drama. He's kind, honest, and when his phone buzzes, he hands it to me to check the message if his hands are busy. It's amazing what actual trust feels like. What I learned. If you're going through something similar, here's what I want you to know. Trust your gut. I had suspicions for weeks but talked myself out of them because I wanted to believe the best in people I loved. Don't ignore red flags, even from people you trust completely. You deserve better than someone who can lie to your face for months. It doesn't matter how much money you've spent, how many people will be disappointed, or how much history you have. You deserve honesty and faithfulness. Real friends don't sleep with your fiancé. I don't care how complicated the situation is or how in love they claim to be. A real friend would have either kept boundaries or told you what was happening. The trash took itself out. As painful as it was, I'm grateful I found out before I married him. Imagine discovering this after we had a mortgage together, or kids, or years of legal entanglement. People will surprise you, both positively and negatively. Some people I thought would support me didn't, and some people I barely knew rallied around me in amazing ways. The night I discovered everything, I thought my life was over. I was wrong. My life was just beginning. Losing my best friend and fiancé in one night hurt like hell. But it hurt less than living a lie would have. Update. For those asking in the comments, yes, I kept my wedding dress. I'm having it altered into a cocktail dress for New Year's Eve. Seemed like a better use than letting it gather dust in my closet. And no, I don't regret my decision at all. Not even for a second.